So here we are in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, and tonight we're going to be dealing, to start out with, verse 16. It says, and we left off last week dealing with the concept of bitterness that can spring up and defile the whole person. But tonight we move into 16, and it says that there is no immoral or godless person like Esau, who sold his own birthright for a single meal. So that is Hebrews chapter 12. It's saying to the people that beware that there be no godless person, immoral person, like Esau, that sold his birthright for a meal. So therefore, when Esau sold his, well, let's get this straight. We have Abraham, and Abraham has, who was his son? Isaac. And then Isaac had a son. What, did he have a son?
Jacob and Esau.
He had two sons? Oh, he had two sons, Jacob and Esau.
Isaac. Yeah.
They were twins?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so he had two sons. Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau, and they were twins. Now, which was the oldest?
Esau.
Why was he the oldest if they were twins?
He came out first.
Oh, he came out first. And then Jacob came out holding his heel. Okay. But Esau, and so here you've got the in a sense, I guess, the grandfather being Abraham. And then their dad being Isaac. And so this would be kind of what we would consider to be kind of a godly home. Would we kind of think of that as a godly family? And Esau is referred to be godless because he sold his birthright for a meal. And also I find here that it's obvious that Esau, which I knew he was a hunter. He went out and hunted, and he was into hunting and all that business. But evidently he also was a womanizer, because it says here that he was also immoral. Now, let's not be fooling around at the table, girls. Now, so does that make sense to you?
Well, it says he was immoral, that there be no immoral or godless person like Esau. Well, it says in the King James, must be any fornicator. So that would go along with your point.
Yeah, I never heard of Esau being a womanizer or a fornicator, and so, but now we find this out about him, that he was actually out chasing women. Is that right?
Yeah, and it says in the NIV it says no one is sexually immoral.
Sexually immoral. Esau is sexually immoral.
Mine says fornicator.
Yeah.
In your NASB it just says there be no immoral. So it doesn't say sexual, but the others all make it fornication.
Fornication.
Amplified says the same thing.
Amplified says the same thing. So we're able to conclude that Esau was godless and a fornicator and immoral. Do we all agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other option that we can come up with?
With what?
With the explanation is, because we don't have any reference in the Bible that I know of that says that Esau was immoral or a womanizer or a fornicator other than here.
No.
We don't have any. So what I'm going to suggest, is it possible that maybe the word immoral doesn't refer to fornication or sexual impurity, but it refers to something else? Now let's think about this for a minute. Now, if someone committed adultery on their wife, would they be sexually immoral?
Yes.
They'd be sexually immoral. Are all cases of adultery having to do with sexual immorality?
No. Wait.
Are all cases
of adultery having to do with sexual immorality.
It doesn't.
Yes, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the word adultery means to not pure. And so like if something is adulterated, let's say you have pure fluid, and then you put something else into it, it's adulterated, and it's no longer pure. And that's why some people say that when you, the Jews mixed with other races and from other religions, pagan religions, that was adultery.
Without being sexually involved.
Yes.
That's interesting. So if you have a case of a man that is married to a woman, and then he's involved in adultery, that means he's basically went from the woman he's married to another woman. He is not only spending his time maybe with this other woman, but he's also being sexually impure with this other woman. But the main thing is he's left his wife and he's went to another. That would be adultery. Now, could it be that if you had this godly family that Esau was born into, which was God-centered, I mean, let's face it, we're talking about Abraham and Isaac. This is kind of like right out of the chute, folks. This is kind of like a godly thing, and God's right in the middle of it, to where he's actually standing before Abraham talking to him. He's intricately involved in this whole thing. He's intricately involved with the very life of Isaac, where Abraham was going to put a knife into him, and basically Isaac lives because God called Abraham off from in that particular action, and I guess you could talk about that. But so we're talking about kind of a godly family here, and here you have Esau, which could it be that he is kind of turning his back on his family heritage and getting involved in the world, so to speak, and as a result of that, being involved in a form of idolatry, not idolatry, adultery, and God equates that action with immoral? Could the fact that someone that's a Christian, that's born again, and then he walks away from his Christianity and he gets involved in the world, wouldn't that be like a guy walking away from his wife and getting involved with another woman? Couldn't that be a form of adultery? Couldn't that be looked at as immoral?
There we go with what Luke just said.
And wouldn't the fruit of that immoral act and attitude be that you would be willing to even sell your birthright because it really doesn't mean anything to you? The only thing it means anything to you is the material things around you, such as the food you're about to eat. I think that's probably what's going on here, in spite of the fact that the commentators want to make Esau out to be an actual sexual fornicator. I'm saying what's really going on here is we've got a case of immorality, because Esau and that's how God views it. God views his action of stepping away from him, God, and going after the ways of the world, the self-centeredness, self-gratification, self-involvement of being the hunter and going out and living a life of going out and hunting and chasing down the deer or the elk or whatever they were that he was doing. His whole life is centered around this. It's not centered around God. It's centered around this. This is kind of a macho thing. And I think that's really what's going on here. It's a case that he is an adulterer because he ought to be God-centered, and he's not God-centered, he's world-centered. And it's kind of a little bit of a bad commentary. You know, that's the thing about God. God's like the guy that is in the courtroom that raises his right hand and says, will you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. And he agrees to do it. And that's what the Bible does. It tells the whole truth, nothing but the truth. It doesn't hide and just like normal people. You know, well, do I look fat to you? Oh, you don't look fat. You don't look fat. Did I offend you? Oh, you didn't offend me. And then they get in the car. Boy, that guy really ticked me off. You know what I mean? In other words, people constantly love to lie to people. You know, and the Bible doesn't do that. It basically tells us the truth. So here you've got the top-notch guy, Abraham, his son, Isaac, which is no lightweight. But who does Isaac love? He loves the immoral, godless person. That's what it says. Check it out.